Welcome to the Average Apologist podcast. I love that intro so much, Marshall.
Welcome back.
It's fantastic. Today we're talking about feminism.
Yes.
Roundtable discussion. We're getting that in a minute. First, hit us with the word.
But I want you to understand that the head of every man is Christ, the head of a wife is her husband, and the head of Christ is God. 1 Corinthians 11, verse 3.
So we got some guests, which I'm really excited about.
Let's introduce them.
Let's introduce them. So first, in the red corner, I'm thinking like boxing match because, anyway, we got...
We're all in the same corner, though.
Jeremiah Mathot, a.k.a. the Consistent Baptist.
Yes. Good.
And we got, oh my goodness, Benjamin Kayser, a.k.a. Reformed and Dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Happy to sprinkle babies. I mean, happy to be here.
Nice. Yeah. And you do have a YouTube.
That's right.
Reformed and Dangerous.
Reformed and Dangerous.
Please go and subscribe because we're trying to get his children into college. So if you could,
I'm against college. So
it's a private homeschool college. Right. But today we're talking about feminism. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. You want to open it up?
Open up the pit.
I'm going to open it up with a question that I didn't share with you guys that I have on here, just to whet our appetite, start the dialogue. Mm-hmm. We're talking about feminism. And I'm just curious to see where this goes. Okay. So question number one, we don't have to stick to this, by the way. Question number one, what is the chief end of feminism?
Nice.
Right?
Man.
No, well, actually.
Woman?
I thought you were going to say to glorify woman and enjoy her forever is what I thought you were going to say. But I think that's probably the chief end of woman, would you say?
What, to enjoy God?
The chief end of feminism.
Oh, chief end of feminism.
To enjoy women. Is that what I said?
Yeah, I think that's what he said. Yeah.
I think that's what I said.
Yeah, that's funny. To enjoy women.
Yeah.
So
we got feminism going.
Yeah.
Tell us your thoughts. What's the current, what are appetites with what, actually, you know what? Let's start with your question, Benjamin. Is the term complementarianism useful anymore?
Yeah, I mean, we have two terms in evangelical circles that are commonly used. You got egalitarianism, men and women are completely equal in every aspect. And you have complementarianism where they're equal in value, but they have complementarian roles and functions inside of marriage and inside of church. And then you have the kind of on the outside, the controversial one, patriarchy.
Which one and why?
Which one and why?
Yeah.
Well, I don't have any issues with complementarianism, but I think what I've noticed over time is that many people are complementarian in their theology, but in practice, they're more egalitarian. So they're not actually practicing the function of male headship and authority. I one time heard a pastor's wife, it wasn't my pastor, literally they were complementarian, and she believed that the head is the husband is the head of the house, but she literally used the My Big Fat Greek Wedding quote, the husband is the head, but the woman is the neck, and she can turn the head any way that she wants.
Yikes.
And I think that's pretty common in complementarian households.
Yeah, I think more often I see in households, even with the male fully believing in patriarchy or complementarianism, and the wife confessingly believing in that as well, when you actually look at how their marriage works, it's still a lot of happy wife, happy life, a lot of like, let me ask my wife before I do anything. And not to say checking in with your wife just to discern her state is a negative thing. That's totally different. Right. But like going for permission and wife getting very upset about the choices of the husband that are not outside the perimeters of like their faithful duties, but just normal things to manipulate and control. I think there's still a level of egalitarianism present.
Yeah, I mean, the big distinction between what patriarchy and complementarianism, right? I think a lot of people like to say, well, patriarchy is a word that's in the Bible and complementarianism is a word that's not. Actually, I don't think the word patriarchy is actually in the Bible.
Right, it's father rule or
exactly.
Patriarch,
just head,
I mean, what we see is the example of that, though, like father-led, husband-led, and we see it Old Testament, New Testament. I mean, the idea of the husband ultimately being the one that is in charge, where the buck stops with them, where they take all of the ownership over the family and over their wives there as well. They're responsible for their wives. They're responsible for their spiritual well-being and their physical well-being and everything that the Lord has put under their care. But, you know, just like Ben said, I'm not necessarily opposed to the term complementarianism. I mean, we do have complementary roles, and I think it's good to embrace that. That we, you know, I think like the sun and the moon, right? I mean, they both glorify God as they were designed to glorify God. But the sun doesn't wonder whether it's the moon, and the moon doesn't wonder whether it's the sun. They stay in their lane, so to speak, right? And they complement each other beautifully.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys know the definition of complementarianism?
No.
Or the origination?
No.
So, well, hold on.
Not I.
So there's
it's more people at this table.
What's it called? It's this. Yeah. Okay. So the Center for Biblical Manhood and Womanhood wrote a book. Okay. But then in the 1980s, in the 1987 Danvers statement clarified, this is the kind of the definition. It's that men and women are equal in dignity and personhood, but different in function, with men holding a divinely ordained leadership role in the home and church.
Yeah,
it's funny because
I don't have any issues with that.
I think if you just say that, people go, that's patriarchy. I think they're kind of in a sense the same. And I was actually kind of reading a little bit as to why they chose the term complementarianism. And because the term patriarchy has negative connotations to it, they chose a different term that's not as
loaded.
Not as loaded, not as brash, not as a serrated edge. You know?
Why do you think patriarchy has a negative connotation?
Well, there's a lot of like baggage associated with it of abuse. I would call that more hyper patriarchy. I don't even.
What is that?
I would first label myself a biblical patriarchy holder, because even Islam holds to patriarchy, and it's extremely abusive in their view of women. So there's
it's just
many
a non-biblical patriarchy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Bible creates all sorts of guardrails and safety nets surrounding and patriarchy. So I think we have to make sure that we're using the Bible as the standard for, you know, how we define those things. Have
you guys read It's Good to Be a Man?
Yes.
Yeah.
Michael Foster.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm reading it for the third time right now. It's very good. He puts, so his kind of premise right out of the get-go is that he likens our Western culture to Jerusalem during the siege. It's on fire and the walls are destroyed and it's defenseless and it's burning. And so are our men. The same situation. They're burning for lust, they're burning, and they're defenseless, their walls are down. But he kind of lays this foundation that patriarchy is inevitable, and that the world, or people in positions of power, and even feminism as a power, will use strong men in three different ways. They will use them, first and foremost, give them something to rally behind, patriotism, something that's like a crisis conservatism, or on the other side, you know, to battle with the feminism, whatever it is. To use them, to pacify them, to addict them to pornography, video games, a false sense of dominion and sense of ruling and reigning in life. And then three is destroy them. And it's kind of like the three things that happen if you're a strong, masculine man in a good way that stands against culture. I thought that was pretty insightful. And I think feminism is something that it's kind of in the realm of actually all three. It pacifies men because it feminizes men. It destroys them as well because it feminizes them. It's destroying masculinity, and it's using them for their cause to rally. You know what I mean? I thought it was pretty insightful.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing that keeps coming up for me is like, as I think about it, I mean, it seems like women really are faced with two options. Here's your choices, right? Do we have the strong, masculine, biblical man lead, or do we have the man in the dress lead? But it seems like those are pretty much the two inevitable options that are in front of us.
Especially with transgenderism, because it is a man in a woman's dress that will inevitably lead. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we talked about complementarianism, and we said, wait, why? Because I think originally you brought up this question, like, is complementarianism useful to use as a term rather than patriarchy? Like, why should we use that term still? Should we just say patriarchy?
I think it just depends on how you're defining both terms, because I'm not on board with every form of patriarchy. There's plenty of
Or
guys,
complementarianism.
on either side.
Yeah.
There are bad cases of patriarchy where you got people going in legalistic. Bill Gothard comes to mind.
No idea.
You're not familiar with Bill Gothard?
I know the name. I can't.
Listen,
Homeschool
you grew up with an
movement and-
education. We're average, dude.
Yeah, I mean, all sorts of legalism, and I would put that in the category of like hyper patriarchy. Here's another idea that sometimes is thrown around. The patriarch is still in charge of his adult children who marry and start their own families. As long as he's alive, he is still the authority.
Right.
So there's and they pull that from descriptive, scriptures in the Old Testament that were not prescribed. So there are.
Could you define the difference between a descriptive text and a prescriptive text for anyone who might not know?
Descriptive text is a portion of scripture, often in narrative form, that is describe an event. Prescriptive means it's being prescribed for us to do, like the 10 Commandments.
It's establishing order or commandment or obedience or something.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
Were you thinking like Joshua, like when they describe Joshua had sons, grandsons, when he said, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And of course, he's a unique thing because he's the patriarch of the nation.
Yeah. Yep. Or even Jacob or Abraham, all sorts of patriarchs where, and these are also agrarian. Am I saying that right? Agrarian?
Aquarium?
Aquarium. The averageness of this is getting lower and lower. I dropped out of college. But no,
Me too.
Me too.
look at that.
Look at that. Hey,
Jeremiah?
Jeremiah's
we got
holding.
one here.
I got a music degree.
Nice.
But you're in
Not
seminary.
impressive. Sure, I'm in seminary. But
Yeah. You hold us accountable.
But a lot of the sons,
Wait.
they would work on their father's farm.
How many of us are ordained right now?
None.
Zero.
Oh, well,
Technically, you and I are ordained.
technically, I am an ordained minister in the state of Hawaii.
I am also ordained
No, it's really
By the-
concerning to hear.
by the state.
Yeah, exactly.
It is.
This is a
not-
problem.
It is not valid, let me tell you. Anyway, moving on. What does it mean for a man to be head of his household? Because you read 1 Corinthians 11. Were you saying something? Did I cut you off?
No, I was actually going to lead into like headship. Like what is
Nice.
what does that in relation to even just the passage I read, which, there's a lot to be said on 1 Corinthians 11, but I think the idea of headship, there's so much to kind of unravel from the idea of headship. We see that we see Adam as the federal head, right, of all mankind, and because of him as our federal head, we have his nature, which is in sin, right? So we're all born into Adam, right? We're all born into sin, and we carry that. And it wasn't even him who partook of the fruit.
Yeah.
right?
So when you're saying federal head, you're saying as a representative head
Yes.
of a people
Yes.
or an era or whatever.
Yes.
Adam would be our federal head until
Right.
we're in Christ, and then
Right.
Christ becomes our
Christ
federal
becomes, which is like why I read what I read earlier. Christ becomes the head of man.
And Eve was the first feminist, pursuing an
Sure.
authority that was not hers to
Yep.
pursue.
Yep. And that's even something we see in the fall. We see when God curses the serpent, the woman, and the man,
Yeah.
the thing he says to the woman is what? He says, your desire shall be contrary to the man, your
But
husband.
he shall rule over you.
Yep. And so we see that. And does that mean, headship is a result of the fall? I don't think so. 'Cause you see that before. Sorry, we see that. We see the order of nature prior to the fall, right?
Man, I wish I prepared this clip. I just remembered about it, but a buddy of mine sent me a clip, and it was some dude kind of combating Douglas Wilson's some of the things he said in that CNN interview. And it's funny, man, because he took just like one little clip and it really wasn't controversial. Like what he actually said is pretty much just what Genesis says in Corinthians, you know. And he didn't even get to the juicy stuff. He just kind of grabbed something standard. And he went on this rant about how the problem is people like Douglas Wilson start in Genesis 3 and they skip 1 and 2. And so he goes back and he kind of reinterprets 1 and 2 to mean that like helper, the actual word is like warrior or fighter or soldier. And man, I sent back to my buddy who sent it to me, and he sent it to me for my response. And I was like, okay, first of all, he may claim that Doug Wilson didn't go before Genesis 3, but this guy never left Genesis 1 and 2. But also, I'm like, this guy sounds like one of the guys that wants his wife to go to war for him, to go fight in the army. Like, that's kind of what you're suggesting. Like, that's his soldier, like his militant worker, if you will. I don't know. Like the term helper there, dominion was made for man, and woman was man is the glory. Okay, in that 1 Corinthians 11, man is the glory of God, woman is the glory of man. That's pretty explicit in the scripture. I feel like that's something that if you just go into a pulpit and say,
tomatoes immediately thrown right at you,
like Nickelback situation.
They were throwing rocks at Nickelback.
Dude, that's
way different.
They were trying to stone Nickelback. Nickelback. Sorry, wrong band. Nickelback. That's sorry, moving on.
Were there 2 or 3 witnesses?
You're right, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, there were
Nickelback. There was only 1 or 2.
Yeah, there was only 1 or 2 people at the show.
Dude. You know, people hate on Nickelback, dude, but when that song hits, everybody's singing it. Don't lie right now.
Yeah, I want to make an important distinction.
Please do.
You know, in that passage in 1 Corinthians 11, he actually makes it clear it's husband and wife, right? So the glory. What does it say? I want you to understand that the head of every man is Christ. The head of a wife is her husband, and the head of Christ is God. Right. So sometimes there can be this question as to whether every woman is obligated to submit to every man.
It's husband.
Yeah,
her husband.
That would be
husband.
hyper-patriarchy, an example of that.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the Black Hebrew Israelites are a good example of the hyper-patriarchy as well, where they'll tell women to shut up and submit if they're trying to talk to them on the street, if they're combating what they say.
Yeah.
Well, then some take that so far as to say that they would put the wife on the same playing field as the child, and they would say she has no authority over the children, which again is very unbiblical.
Yeah, you could definitely go pretty far with this.
Yeah.
So what would you have to say to in the term of like in the realm of being head of household? It kind of sounds like we're touching on tyrant men and abused wives, but also there's passive men and domineering wives is a problem I see as well. And we kind of brought that up in the beginning, where you have men who say they're complementarian or they're the head of their home, but it's kind of a matriarchy existing.
The wife is the neck that moves the head, right?
It's just a functional matriarchy. Like the gravitas of the house is around the wife, the mother. I see that a lot. And it's funny because even in these homes, I see that these are conservative, like complementarian homes. They would say they agree with that. Yeah, they're all for it. But when you actually look at how they operate, I think the demands, I mean, it's like, I don't want to just, harp on the women. We'll get to the men, I'm sure. But, Proverbs talks about it's better to live in the corner of the roof than to share a whole house with a contentious wife, or to live in the wilderness than to share a whole house with a contentious wife. The contentious wife thing is a sin that is explicit towards women in the Bible, just like gossip. And that's why when men partake of it, it's double, right? Because it's feminine and it's contentious.
Yeah.
So there's twice, like we're actually operating in a different.
We're operating like a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't going to say it, but you said it. Yeah. Little Shania Twain comes on, man, I feel like a woman.
You're ridiculous.
What do you got, Marshall? You're cooking over there?
Oh no, I'm just I'm looking at it. I have
You're just looking at pictures.
Oh no, I just saw this really cool GIF.
Okay.
No, I'm looking. I have my own notes.
Yours are better.
Oh, I don't know about better, but
Sure.
I guess for me, the thing that I commonly see is even at work. You know, we have a customer, a regular, who is a lady pastor.
Oh, she came in today.
Oh, she did?
Yeah.
I almost said her name.
Go ahead.
No, I'm not gonna say it.
Sorry, I got to do it at least once.
But I was going to talk about maybe what are the distinct roles that the scriptures prescribe in the church, as authority in the church.
And the state?
And the state, sure.
Okay, we'll get there.
The home?
Well, unless real quick before, because we're about to.
Yeah, I don't
wait.
wanna,
Are you popping down to like number 6?
I don't know where you're at, dude. I'm looking at my notes.
Well, okay, so I want to bring this up because I'm in other groups and not involved with our church and stuff, and recently interacted with a guy who's kind of claiming that he's holding a position that the Trinity is not biblical. So he's a modalist, right? And he's working through it. So we had some good conversation, and one of the guys in our group is a pastor, so was very just right out the gate, that's heresy. Let's talk about it. Here's why. But something that as we were talking about, I wanted to encourage him is that there's a lot of downstream negative effects of modalism that people don't think about, and that even bleeds into the home. So you kind of have 3 options here with your male headship. You have the Trinitarian headship, which is there's a distinction in function but not in value. You have the modalistic headship, which is no distinction in function at all, which is egalitarianism. And then you have an Arian kind of headship, and this is a distinction in value and function. So it's interesting because when you listen to someone who's sensitive to the term patriarchy or complementarianism, when they talk about headship, they immediately have to follow up with, but let's talk about value. Like they can't, or the reason they're not complementarian is because it's a distinction in value. And that is an Arian view of, it's just an Arian view of a lack of value. It's monarchianism. It's I am actually superior in my created design than you are. You have something?
Yeah, it's headship. Oh, sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say, I mean, that is, like we talked about earlier, like the definition of the curse of the fall, right, for the woman, that your desire will be for your husband or will be contrary to your husband, and yet he'll be over you. I mean, what we're seeing now is this discord within the home, even of like, maybe the husband has a way that he thinks it should go, and the wife has her own way, and she wants to make sure she gets it, and there's immediately this kind of contrast, there's this conflict, and for me, I just look at that and understand that is evidence of the fall, right? Where we're seeing this conflict, and that is a bad thing. These hierarchies here, and so what we need right now, honestly, is for Christian men to step up. You're talking about these households that have where the wife is effectively leading and effectively making all the calls and doing.
Where's the pants?
Yeah, where's the pants? Do all that stuff, right? What do we do about it? I think what we do about it is call men to step into their role, to acknowledge their role, confront them with. I mean, truly, it is a heavy burden on the shoulders of husbands and fathers, right? We are responsible. We will be held to account for how our wives live.
For what?
For our wife's spirituality, like our household, right? Like we'll be held to account for how we lead our wives and our children, and that burden is placed squarely on our shoulders if we take what the Bible has to teach about it seriously.
Amen.
And that's true, even if you don't, step into that role, right? Like even if you and your wife don't see it that way or come to see what the Bible actually says about headship, like inevitably, like you will be one day you will be held responsible for the way you led your family.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You
Right.
stand before God and give
Yeah.
an account.
Yeah.
This is what I did with my family.
And I
And
think,
so just to say real quick, that's why in First Peter he says those husbands who are not honoring their wives, their prayers will be hindered.
yeah.
Like there's such a responsibility and burden on the men that if you're not being a faithful husband to your wife, like your prayers are hindered.
Yeah.
God is working against you.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Not ultimately, if you're saved, but yeah, in the function of life. Anyway, continue.
Well, I was just going to say, even like the whole conversation about value, right? Man is made from dust, and the woman is made from man, right? Inevitably, they both go back to dust, right? But both made in the image of God.
Yeah.
And both have the same value, but different purposes, right? God created man to take dominion and to fill the earth and to rule over it, and created woman from man for man to help. And I think when we look at the Trinity, right, Christ is equal to the Father. He is equal to the Holy Spirit. He submits to the Father on the cross. Right. And so you see a submission of Christ, who is equal in value to the Father.
Right. And what you're saying is if it's a diminishing of value for one to submit to the other, then it's a diminishing of value for Jesus to submit to the Father.
Right.
You can't have both.
Right.
They are the same. It's submission, period.
Yeah. And I think just,
sorry, when Jesus in the farewell discourse, he says, it's better that I go because I'll send the Spirit and he will glorify me. So even sending the Spirit, there's this subordination that the Spirit supports Christ. There's a glorification there. Jesus, glorify me, or I glorify you, glorify me with the glory we had from the beginning, before the world was, John 17. There's this sharing of glory and submission. So clearly they are equal in essence and value, even though there's subordination somewhere. And then there's heresies that come out of this because people take it way too far. But go ahead, Marshall.
Oh, I was going to say it's kind of funny. Earlier today, I just used ChatGPT.
For the first time? I'm just kidding.
I asked ChatGPT, I was like, what are some of what's the biblical view of, headship, or gender roles, right, in scripture. And it said, ChatGPT is not God, right? Says it's patriarchy, and here gave a list of all these passages and verses. And then I just said, maybe it knows the algorithm, it knows I'm reformed, and so then I asked, is there any other way you could see this? And it said, what it said, it basically said, no. And I thought that was crazy. ChatGPT said people will take Galatians 3:28.
There's neither male nor female, nor slave nor free.
ChatGPT said people will take that passage.
Of course, I actually know people who do. It says neither male or female.
Right. And
there's one person in Christ now. There's a new creation.
Yeah,
that's what he's talking about.
I was talking about equality with regards to salvation.
And what is the whole context of Galatians about? Don't go back to Judaism. You don't need, if you fall from the gospel of grace, you've fallen from grace, right? That whole famous phrase that we also twist. He's talking about people who have gone back to the law or have been Judaized, where they're applying grace plus circumcision equals grace, right? He's saying just cut it all off. So the context there is there's no longer a distinction. You don't need to go back to the law. It's not about gender.
Yeah.
So anyway, for anyone,
I just thought it was funny that even ChatGPT, when pressed, was it teaches patriarchy, throughout Scripture consistently. There's, I thought that was just funny.
Well, you go back to Adam and Eve, and you were talking about this a little bit. Eve ate the fruit, but Adam was held responsible for not leading his wife, for not. It was very clear that he was present. And he could have stopped her, and he didn't. So he neglected his responsibility, and
he obeyed the voice of his wife versus the voice of God.
And everything fell. And it's interesting, if you look at the history of the feminist movement, first wave feminism, and how it kind of spurred about, and there's a lot to that history, but there's a lot of links to the temperance movement. Are you guys familiar with the temperance movement in late 1800s, early 1900s? It was a movement of women that were organizing and campaigning to respond to the rampant alcoholism that was happening among men, and legitimate, like, bad things. And as I was thinking about this, you know, you guys are familiar with the 4 different types of government. You got self-government. You know, that's our first responsibility, is to govern ourselves.
The home.
Family government, govern our households. You got church government, and then you got state government. It seems like the first thing to go is when men fail to rule themselves. When they lose control of their bodies, they're they're addicted to pornography, they're gluttonous, they're angry. They have, gambling addiction, whatever it is. They've lost control of their self-government. And then what inevitably happens, that bleeds over into the family. Okay.
Well, and just to chime in real quick, I want you to finish your thought, but like the seed of idolatry in the self-government is I'm God, my way is better. And that's the first commandment we actually all need to repent for in our lives is I've made myself a God. I have declared what is righteous, how things should be. I've gotten angry or upset, or I've approved of things that are against God because I've said, if only he were like me, I would believe in him. My God's better, essentially. So when we're self-governing, quote unquote, in a sinful way, that's not self-control, it's not submitted to the Lord, it is just blatant idolatry. Yeah, so go ahead. I just wanted to grab on that.
Yeah, so that was like first wave feminism, and then second wave feminism in the 60s. I mean, there's a lot going on with like abortion and the sexual revolution as well. But
Marshall knows that.
There was also a response against rape that was happening and domestic abuse. And so you start like putting things together, and it seems like every time men neglect to be righteous, godly men, spiritually themselves in their relationship with God and in their households, that's when feminism crops up.
Let me ask you this. Why were the men that way?
No fathers.
No fathers. Thank you. Waiting for someone to say it. That's why. Because they had derelict fathers, post-war fathers, after post-war fathers that were just messed up and not present. And these kids are kids being fathers. Yeah. They're not discipled. They're not recovered from the effects of a lack of a father in the home. And so that's just what's going to happen. That's why you're saying rule number 1, govern yourself. Figure out stop watching porn. Stop whatever it is, right? Stop being an alcoholic. Now govern your family, be a father to your children, and actually reverse the curse that we're talking about of the need for feminism.
Yep.
Like, what you're saying, Jeremiah, is like if you attack the men in a positive way, if we come out this like change the men. It's funny because we came on here to talk about feminism. All we're talking about is male responsibility.
It's headship.
But we're responsible.
It's true.
Yeah, we're responsible for feminism.
I love that. I'm not going to lie. I'm thankful because I didn't want to just sit here and, talk about women, right? But if we correct this, like this will remove the need for why feminism began in the first place because of a sinful patriarchy. And patriarchy is inevitable, but it's a contrary to God's unbiblical patriarchy.
I think it probably stemmed from the void that most wives were, not, there was a void in the home, right? And so women were
like a black hole,
like a black hole, and they wanted, their husbands to stop drinking, lead their family, take the family to church on Sunday.
Yeah.
And so there's a void, but then also.
Well, can I add on to that?
Yeah.
Where was the church in this situation? So one thing that also happened was you got that third government, and what do faithful shepherds do in this situation? I mean, if there's an alcoholic husband, like there should be some church discipline, counseling.
Yep.
That wasn't happening. What you had in the temperance movement.
Church membership.
That's right. Church.
Yeah.
What you had in the temperance movement was the women and the ministers going to the state and wanting to get the state involved. And then you have
bypass church, right?
Exactly.
To state. Now state is replacing church.
Oh,
this
wow.
whole separation. This is crazy.
That's how you got prohibition laws.
This domino effect. We just cracked the code.
my dad always said feminism inevitably will always lead to statism. Always.
Because it relies on a father rule, and the father rule is the state. Man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Dude.
That's crazy.
I'm sorry, I'm too late, man. I gotta
for that.
sorry guys. I gotta like get better about discipling myself with these pads already. Okay. Oh wow. Man, I feel like we just covered so much. So the role of the state, you said the churches, you said church discipline. We talked about church membership recently. I think that is key, and it's actually one of the marks of a church. If you're looking at what are the biblical, like how can I test if something's actually a church? Church discipline has to inevitably be part of it, because if you're not submitted to any sort of leadership, Christ isn't even ruling in your church, it's inevitably going to lead to these problems.
To feminism.
It's going to lead to the need for feminism.
Right.
Feminism should convict us that we've failed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Look at Deborah.
Right.
Who's Deborah?
Right. No.
Aunt Debbie.
His name's Marshall.
I think that's actually, kind of getting in, maybe going down that direction eventually, but like, you see, who are they going up against? The Israelite men were cowards. They wouldn't. Was it the Canaanites?
You're doing great, Marshall.
Was it the Canaanites?
So Judges 4.
Wow, he's a chapter guy too. We got another chapter guy.
They go to Deborah, because the prophetess, right? And
the prophetess.
She was a judge.
Oh, she was a judge.
I just never heard it pronounced that
She's
way.
a judge, not a prophetess.
Yeah, she's one of the judges.
She wasn't a prophetess.
No, prophetess. No,
Prophetess. Prophetess.
Deborah was one of the judges.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Anyways, but essentially what happens is the men are cowards, and Deborah basically pronounces a sense of judgment upon the men. Do you have the verse?
I have a different verse, but you keep going.
Oh, is that where it's rebuking the men for having women lead over them?
No.
Okay.
But essentially, Deborah, right before battle, says, just so you know, like, it will go down in history that a woman won this battle.
Yeah, I got it here. So she said, I will surely go with you. Nevertheless, there will be no glory for you in the journey you are taking, for the Lord will sell Sisera into the hand of a woman.
You done messed up, Aaron.
That's right. So the thing is that when you talk to egalitarian, they're going to point to Deborah. But we're saying is Deborah is a byproduct of a failure.
Yes.
And God used a woman to
that.
shame the men, and she acknowledged that.
She was
and
patriarchal.
we're not condemning Deborah. We're condemning the men because Deborah was needed because men failed.
Right.
It's just like the strip clubs. You want the strip clubs empty and get the men to stop going.
Yep.
There's no stripping that will ever happen.
Right. We talked about doing like
We didn't talk about that much.
club ministry.
What are you talking about?
No. We talked.
Sorry.
No, but we talked about, yeah,
we did.
Yeah, because there's a bunch of strip
Yes.
clubs in downtown Boise in that area, and
So
it's heartbreaking. We had at one of the shops we
nasty
worked at,
guys out there too.
nasty guys,
Nasty dudes.
Oh, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
I've never, thankfully, been to a strip club. I had a good friend of mine who I remember went to a strip club, Christian guy. I think he turned 21, and he went by himself. And
That's sad, dude.
He walked in, paid the price, walked right out, and he called me and he's like, dude, I feel so guilty, and I feel sick. I feel disgusted. I was tempted. I walked into the strip club, and it was like the most disgusting feeling. I just felt
being around
cheap.
that kind of unbridled sin is pretty impacting.
Yeah, but bringing up the strip club is,
You're always bringing up the strip club.
but bringing up them like ministering to it's like, do you minister to the women? Do you send women to go in and minister to the women? Is that more appropriate? But I think you and I talked about it. It's like, no, you preach to the men, right? You reach the men and you get them to stop, being lazy and cheap. And
I wouldn't stop women ministries from going and ministering to those women, but I think the way to like the root of it, is man's unbridled lack of self-government has failed to reign over his flesh by the Spirit of God.
This morning I opened up Proverbs 31, which a lot of women, that's their go-to verse on what a virtuous woman is. But it's interesting, if you look at the verses before Proverbs 31, you have the words of King Lemuel, the utterance which his mother taught him. And so it's from King Lemuel, I'm pronouncing that right, to his son. And here's some verses I highlighted.
It's such a good proverb.
Do not give your strength to women, nor your ways to that which destroys kings. And then later it talks about like not drinking intoxicating drink, lest they drink and forget the law. So they're drunk essentially, and pervert the justice of all the afflicted. And then later on in verse 9, open your mouth, judge righteously, and plead the cause of the poor and needy. I thought it was fascinating how this is contrasted with the Proverbs 31 woman.
This the juxtaposition rule. So this is hermeneutic. Actually, when we did the hermeneutics class in here, I taught on this, is that like throughout all of Scripture, juxtaposition is there intentionally to exalt and to tear down, to bring that stark contrast. That's why, like, even Revelation, you get the harlot of Babylon. What's immediately after her downfall? It's the bride of Christ. And all the redeeming adorations of the adornment and the beauty of the bride are the exact parallels or opposites to the harlot of Babylon. So
even what's crazy too is like it says in verse 3 of Proverbs 31, do not give your strength to women, your ways to those who destroy kings. Okay, go up to verse 1. It says, the words of King Lemuel, an oracle that his mother taught him. His mom told him, gave him that proverb.
Yep. So clearly she has some governing over the children.
Yeah, but exactly. But she also acknowledges, don't give your strength to women.
It's a woman saying that. It's like what your screenshot that you shared, was it the CNN article?
I'm blanking on it.
Remember? Because
when you commented on Facebook with
you said, if my wife is for this, do I have to tell her she's wrong?
Oh yeah, that's right.
It was so good. Well, you're not going to share it, so it's all right. But if you need to see it, people,
you had to be
talk
there.
to Ben Kayser.
You had to be there.
One of those.
Did you have something to say, Jeremiah?
Dude, I have so much to say.
I would chime in whenever, dude. You're like the quiet wise one. You're making us look like fools.
No, I don't know. I mean, the idea of headship, right? I mean, we all have authorities over us. That's one of the ways the Lord functions in the world and has kind of set things up, right? Every one of us has authorities, right? Children have their parents, wives their husbands, even their bosses at work,
pastors.
Pastors, right? We have our elders,
intern pastors.
No authority there whatsoever.
Soon to be authority.
But then there's the state, obviously. I mean our lives really are constant submission to authority, right? We all have to understand there are authorities over us, and so the tough part is when you have wives who don't like that idea, right? Well, wait, he's the boss over me, or he gets to control my life, and that's what we're trying to avoid, obviously. I mean, that's what, honestly, all of the teachings to husbands, especially in the New Testament, are exactly the opposite of that. It's love your wives.
Yeah.
Love your wives like Christ loved the church. I mean, that sacrificial type of love, doing whatever it takes to make sure she knows that she's loved, to pour into her, to nurture her. It's kind of like this idea of, we as men, we're workers and keepers. That really comes straight from the garden, right? That is our entire existence here on earth, is to work and to keep.
Yeah.
And we're to work and to keep our families, our wives. And so it's like our wives are like flowers that are before us, right? And we look at the flower and it's wilting and it's not looking its best. And then we look at the flower and we say, "What's wrong with you, flower? Like, what the heck?" When in reality, that's our fault. We're the one with the watering can in our hands.
Yeah.
And we're neglecting the flower. We're not loving her the way she needs to be loved.
I think that's the flip side to woman being the glory of man as well. Is if you go to a guy's house and you see beautiful garden, it brings glory to the house. And when we don't care for our wives, love our wives, we tear down the glory, which is reflecting the whole house. And we're essentially going out and uprooting the flowers and making sure it wilts and fades and dries up, But yeah.
I mean, a book that was really powerful for me, and it's not about Christianity at all.
Purpose-driven life.
No.
The Secret.
Yeah, it's
Nice.
called Extreme Ownership by our
Jocko
boy,
Willink.
Jocko Willink.
Yeah.
And that, when I read through that was actually really, really helpful, especially when I applied it to my life and marriage and household.
What a covert biblical teaching of leadership. Because he's basically getting all of his parallels from David versus Saul, and from Christ, who says he wants to be the greatest among you, let him become the slave of all. That's like his whole thing. I love Jocko Willink.
Yeah, I mean, it really it's called extreme ownership, because really what he's trying to teach is that no matter what is happening, no matter the war that's in front of you or the outcome or whatever it was, you always look at it and you say, that's my fault. That's my fault.
Yeah.
In every situation. So in the household, it's, my wife isn't submitting to me, or we have this disagreement on some issue. It's my fault. I haven't helped her. I haven't brought her up to this yet.
How do you make it? How do you make a distinction though between responsibility and guilt? Because I think a lot of guys, like if you go to modern counseling, 9 out of 10 times, it's the wife and the husband there. A lot of the times, there's a lot of problems with the wife. But when you're in front of the counselor, it's like attack the husband because you're causing all of this. And there's a level of, like you said, like, yes, we are completely responsible for our house, right? But at the same time, is there a distinction between the guilt that's within the house or the response? For example, like, and this is what I'm getting at here, like Jesus didn't take the guilt. He took the responsibility. He wasn't guilty of any sin, right? How do you guys make that distinction?
Well, I mean, Eve still had, responsibility for her sin, and she experienced
The curse
that our wives all experience because of it.
And God was honest with her about what the curse is based on her actions.
Yep.
But didn't fail to deliver the curse to the husband as well. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I had some questions yesterday. I preached on forgiveness, and it can be a tricky subject. And, one of the questions was...
It's a great sermon, by the way.
Well, oh, thanks, man.
Yeah. That's not what you're supposed to say.
Sorry.
You're supposed to say...
Whoop-de-doo! What does it all mean, Basil?
That's what you say when someone says nice sermon.
Right. I'm supposed to say, no, it wasn't. It was terrible.
Just kidding. It was really good.
But what do we do when someone has wronged you and they come to you and they say, well, you have to forgive me because
the Bible says
so. Yeah.
Well, there's justice as well. So we don't neglect justice for forgiveness.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's this idea, though, and the same thing can happen in the marriage, right? We're husbands again. We're really railing on the husbands. But, we look at our wives and we say, well, you're not submitting the way you're supposed to, right? Here's this verse. It says submit. And ultimately, we end up...
if you hit her with it, it actually goes farther. No,
yeah,
I'm just kidding.
I've heard that.
Guys.
I haven't tried it yet.
With the word, wash her with it, people.
Yeah, wash her with it, not beat her with it.
Really bad joke.
But I think that there is kind of a disjunction there between, like, taking something in Scripture that is written to a certain person, right? That being wives, and beating them over the head with it. Well, that's not written to you, right? You can almost kind of shut off right there and say, okay, this isn't to me. This is to wives, and she's going to be responsible for how she follows this command. But it is not my responsibility to force her, to force this upon her, to submit her, right? It never says, husbands, submit your wives, obviously.
Yeah.
I think also when you look at the actual curse, the fall, just even visually, if you look, it says, there's a couple, little paragraph to the serpent.
Well, you read the Passion Translation. So.
Is that a real translation?
Yeah.
I'm reading that New World Translation.
I love that you don't know
just
about
kidding.
the Passion.
I don't know what that is.
It's so awesome.
I love that film. But it's crazy because Eve is the one that sinned in the garden. She is the one that was deceived. She partook.
It's the fall of man.
God says this to the woman. To the woman, he said, I will surely multiply your pain in childbearing. In pain you shall bring forth children. Your desire shall be contrary to your husband, but he shall rule over you. That's the cursed woman.
Yeah.
Ready for the man?
Yeah.
The curse of the man. And to Adam, the one who did not eat the fruit. Mm-hmm. The one who, as it says earlier, it says early in verse 3, it says, so when the woman saw that the tree was good for food and that it was a delight to the eyes and that the tree was to be desired to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate, and she also gave some to her husband who was with her. Yeah. And he ate, who was with her. Mm-hmm. So he was there. He wasn't the first one to engage, but he was with her. So you have this very quick curse, not quick, I'm not trying to make light of the curse to women. But then to Adam, the one who didn't eat, he says, because you have listened to the voice of your wife and have eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, you shall not eat of it. Cursed is the ground because of you. In pain you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for you, and you shall eat the plants of the field by the sweat of your face. You shall eat bread till you return to the ground.
I like sweat of
your
brow.
For out of it you were taken, for you are dust, and to dust you shall return. Mm-hmm. Even the curse of death is placed upon man. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And you see. That's
why we all die in Adam.
We all die in Adam. Yeah. Exactly. And I think even to address what you were saying, Jeremiah, I think when we see my wife you need to submit to me because the Bible says so. Mm-hmm. She's not going to submit to someone who's not worthy of submission. Mm-hmm. You need to be the man that God has called you to be and lead and you can do that in not in a hyper patriarchal, unbiblical fashion, but in a fashion where you are loving your wife as Christ did the church. You're living sacrificially for her. You're laying your life down for her. You're working hard for her, even in the moments when maybe there's friction in marriage, because we all have friction in our marriage, and sometimes wives don't want to submit, and sometimes men don't want to lead. Well, but
and someone can run with that and take that to a pendulum and say,
which way?
Well, the wife could say, well, I'm not going to submit to you because you're not worthy, but this guy is actually we would consider worthy.
She needs to submit either way.
Yep. Correct. Yeah, 100%.
But what you're saying is become a man that she should submit to.
Right.
Pray and trust God with your marriage.
Yes.
That God will lead her to deny her flesh.
Yes.
Because her flesh is saying, don't submit, resist, lead, control. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what the curse is to the woman. I mean, I feel the curse with work.
Yeah.
I feel like women know I think deep down, a lot of women know they want to control their husbands. Mm-hmm. Like that's the curse of the fall.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not controversial to say that.
Yeah.
But I think the pendulums there are, you have a woman who is always saying, well, if my husband was worthy, I would, but he's not. And there's this rebellion they're not addressing. Or the other flip side is saying, all you need to do, man, is just work on yourself.
It definitely goes both ways.
Yeah.
The woman absolutely has to, we didn't want to just hammer on men today.
Well, right.
But
we are. But that's why
goes that way.
Think about God's response in the garden. Right away, straight to the woman. This is what happened. You're cursed. Right away, straight to the man. You're cursed. Then to Satan, the ultimate enemy, because you have done this on your belly.
Actually, that goes the other way around.
No.
My elect standard version.
What?
Does. Yeah.
Your ESV?
Yeah.
It goes to the woman and then goes
it goes to the serpent
man
first.
The serpent?
Yeah.
What? Does it really?
Yeah, it says the Lord God said to the serpent and then to the woman and then to Adam.
Man, I gotta fact check that, dude. Oh. With my King James.
No.
No.
So you think we should get to the controversial stuff then? What's time?
Controversial?
Yeah, that's not even controversial.
Which one? So I mean, honestly, we're talking about results of the fall, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the results of the fall, it continually is brought up, And Paul uses the fall as an example as to his teaching on women in authority, right? So he's
Totally right, Marshall.
He says,
He got me.
1 Timothy chapter 2, right? Everyone's favorite. Starting in verse 11. Let a woman learn quietly with all submissiveness. I do not permit a woman to teach or to exercise authority over a man. Rather, she is to remain quiet. For Adam was formed first, then Eve, and Adam was not deceived, but the woman was deceived and became a transgressor. Yet she will be saved through childbearing if they continue in faith and love and holiness with self-control. So what Paul does here is he roots, it's not just an arbitrary, some people will try to say that, right? It's like, this was just cultural. There were women who were leading the temple locally, and he's just really talking to those women who were doing that. But that's not the reasoning that Paul gives, right? He actually roots it in creation.
Yeah.
He says, the Adam was formed first, then Eve. So he gives us the order of creation, and then he also gives us the order of the fall. And he says that Eve was deceived, but Adam was not. And so he's rooting this teaching on women and authority over men, and he's saying women should not hold authority over men because of this, because Adam was formed first, and because Eve was deceived first.
Can I add to that? Because this is, Paul reiterates this. That was 1 Timothy, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is 1 Corinthians 14.
Yep.
It says, verse 34, let your women keep silent in the churches, for they are not permitted to speak, but they are to be submissive, as the law also says. If they want to learn something, let them ask their own husbands at home, for it is shameful for a woman to speak in church. Now, let's pause here, because in verse 34, he ends up by saying, as the law also says. Now, if you search the law diligently, what you'll find is there's no law that says this. But the view of the law here was the Torah and the Tanakh, was Moses and the law and the prophets and the Psalms, the wisdom, right? And so what Paul is appealing here to is Genesis 3:16 is created. Well, it's Genesis 1-3 is created order.
Mm-hmm.
That's the law he's talking about. He's not talking about a commandment. He's talking about the law, which is Moses, first 5 books. That's where we get our created order from.
Mm-hmm.
What do you got?
Oh, I kid you not. Yesterday morning before church, my 4-year-old daughter asks, Dad, why don't women preach? And I kid you not, last night for family devotions, we were on that passage. I was like, oh, you little Eve.
Viper and diaper.
Whoa.
Oh.
He's Baptist.
I reject that.
He's Baptist.
I love it.
Yeah, Jeremiah. He's like, we can end it here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Obviously, that's a tough teaching for a lot of women, right? I mean, a lot of women look at that and say, well, that's not fair.
But do you think, let me ask you this, if women were picky, and I don't want this to sound rude, but we're more picky about the men they marry, but also less picky. I think there's an overcorrection right now where women just aren't getting married because there's like, nobody's like Jesus. Well, of course, no one's like Jesus. That would be Jesus. But do you think if women were pickier about the men that they would submit to, they'd find a guy that is worthy, and then of course some of the time that guy's not going to be the man you think, but it's not emotionalism. It's coming to, I know you don't like emotionalism, Jeremiah.
That's right.
It's like we're women coming under the stewardship of their father, helping them find a suitor that is worthy of his daughter, like the father being involved in that. And obviously you don't have to be controlling in the sense of arranged marriage, but I'm sure that still happens in a lot of places of the world, and I'm sure it actually ends up in happy marriages. But in this sense of just shepherding your daughter and finding a suitor and helping orchestrate that, and if that comes to fruition, at least you have some responsibility in the man that she chose, and the chances of finding a suitable man to submit to, I think that it will lead to free submission.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one of the things, I mean, it even says there in 1 Corinthians 14, right, that if the woman does have a question, what is she
Let her
supposed
ask.
to do with it? Yeah. What is she supposed to do with it? She's supposed
Ask her
to
husband.
take it home.
Which presupposition, husband knows the answer.
There's another
There's
responsibility.
responsibility.
on
Wash
the
him with the
husband's side.
word.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, you need to be able to answer her questions. And that obviously, there's a lot of questions. The Bible's a very big book. We can't know everything about everything, but I mean, we should feel that sense of responsibility. Like, hey, that's what God teaches in His Word. That you have to be able to answer these questions. You know, like she's going to have questions as she's growing in her faith and her spiritual walk, and you need to be able to help her through them. That is your responsibility.
I feel like we should get to that other question on the list of how do we help our wives shed the feminism of our culture?
Wow, dude, you just read off my list, dude. I see how it is. Yeah, no,
Because I wrote it.
Hey, ChatGPT wrote it. Okay, no, just kidding. Yeah, no, let's ask that for sure. How do we
shed?
How do we help our wives shed the feminism they've unknowingly adopted?
Because I think all of our
Read the Bible.
Well, yes, but I think all of our wives, when we married them, we probably did not hold to these positions as strongly.
Dude.
I probably
I was
did the most,
pretty
but
loose.
I was pretty loose. Even my wife was pretty feminist leaning when we first met. So,
Yeah, totally. So interesting story with me. Like I've been all over the rails with theology. This is the most consistent I've been in a long time. But when I first got married at 19, like I went into actually rank heresy. But my wife stayed kind of the same, just kind of more of a simple evangelical foundation, right? But I remember when I was coming out of the hyper charismatic movement and all that, I was self-appointed house church pastor, and I was about to appoint a female elder to keep it while we moved away. And I mean, it's so weird hearing me say that. Like, it's a totally different guy. I actually still have the recordings, and I want to keep them. No one else can hear them, but I just never want to go back, Anyway, I had a buddy, Maxwell Almost. One day we're working together, and he's like, hey, man, let me read the scripture to you. And he read 1 Timothy or 1 Corinthians, one of them. And he's like, what do you think that means? And I was just like, oh, my goodness. Like, I just feel like, someone's confronting you with the word. What are you going to do? And I remember talking to Grace about it, and it was actually really easy. She was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it says right there. Like, for her, it was actually really easy. I know it's not a lot of guys' experience. I think it took time for her to actually, like, the orthopraxy, like, flesh that out, because she's still kind of living as the matriarch at times. But right away, it was actually pretty easy for her.
That's good. I mean, my experience, really, it showed up in, we had a very different view. Not very different, but we had different convictions on modesty, on what modest dress looks like, and we could probably
we got to get into
double
it.
this question up too, right?
I thought the dress you wore, Jeremiah, was a bit unmodest.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So that had risen up earlier on, especially when I came to a little bit more biblical convictions, and we had a different opinion as to what modesty was. I was one of those, and like I wanted to wear a dress all the time, like just wear a nice long beautiful dress. I think she looks the most beautiful in dresses, and I was what I was trying to navigate there, because there was clear kind of friction, because the way I approached it was very much like, hey, you aren't allowed to wear these anymore type of thing. That's not the right way to approach it.
It's kind of like a cage stage.
Like, you just went in and like cut up all her pants.
Yeah, it's like you can't wear these anymore. But what I ended up doing is I don't know if this is manipulative or not, but I was always very, very complimentary when she would wear a dress, and I would compliment her, talk about how beautiful she looks, how wonderful it is when she wears dresses, right? And every time I would, and I still continue to do this. Of course, yeah.
You weren't just saying it.
It's not
you also meant
sinful, like manipulation. It's like every girl has a preference. Every guy has a preference.
Yeah. And so like I would always go and buy her dresses too. So if I'm ever buying her gifts, and I'm continuing to just push the dresses, like more and more
It's
dresses.
like the longer the dress, the more attracted he is. Like this one covers up the ankles.
Yeah.
Basically.
I can't even see your toes.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, what was difficult about it was that difference in convictions, you know? And so that, again, is I looked at that when I really sat down and thought about it. Like, I looked at it as like, that's my responsibility. Like, I haven't been able to express to her why I have my convictions, and
You just know that you have them.
yeah, exactly, and like why I think it's good to be on the same page here, and there was a lot of pushback for a while. It's funny. She even there was an amount of time where she would dress up. I have a little girl. She would dress her up, our daughter, the way that I would like, right, according to what I had expressed to her. But she's like, well, yeah, she's under your authority, you know. But me, and that was an interesting segment of our relationship there too. So
You're like, see what you're doing here? You see what you're doing? This is what I'm trying to do.
yeah, exactly.
You know, it's interesting, man. I was talking to Grace about this the other day, and I was asking her specifically, like, what her thoughts are, like, leading into this dialogue about women and modesty and why that's such a sensitive topic to bring up. And she fully agrees that, like, women are complicit in the sexual influence on men based on the clothes they wear. And women deep down know this and are lying when they say it's just because of the man, they just need to shield their eyes. Like, I don't control men. Of course you don't control men. No one ever said that. But there's a level of accountability on, like, everybody wants attention of some kind. And the attention you might want might be respectful. It might be professional. It might be pastoral. It might be safe. It might be whatever you're trying to get a certain type of attention from somebody. And when a woman is dressing promiscuous, she wants a sexual attention from men, a rise out of men. There's actually quite a few clips of, like, guys talking to girls where like, hey, you know, trying to catcall or trying to, like, you know, hey, do you want to go out or whatever? And she rejects him and he goes, okay, turns and they go, wait, so easy. Because, like, really what they wanted was the chase. And I'm not saying every girl is like this, but I think I know this to be true. Women are designed to be pursued by men. And that is supposed to happen within the confines of a covenantal home in marriage between a man and a woman under God's governing, right? So that's where the pursuit happens. Like, a woman wants to be wooed, wants to be led. That's what she wants, right? And if there's no suitor worthy or no submission there, she still wants that, and she finds that, but it's out in the world, and it's from men, and it's from every other vice that will fill that deficit. It's Proverbs 7. The immoral woman. Actually, let me read it, because, and then, you know, Ben's probably got so much to say right now. It's Proverbs 7. Psalms, of course, there's a million of them. And I'll just skip down to right here. It says, it's the crafty harlot, verse 6. It says, for at the window of my house I looked through my lattice and saw among the simple, I perceived among the youths a young man devoid of understanding, passing along the street near her corner. And he took the path to her house in the twilight and the evening, in the black and the dark night. And there a woman met him with the attire of a harlot in a crafty heart. So there's this crafty heart. There's the attire that's alluring him. Verse 11, she was loud and rebellious. Her feet would not stay at home. At times she was outside. At times she was in the open square, lurking at every corner. So she caught him and kissed him. With an impudent face, she said to him, I have peace offerings with me. Today I've paid my vows. So I came out to meet you diligently to seek your face, and I've found you. I've spread my bed with tapestry, colored coverings of Egyptian linen. I have perfumed my bed with myrrh, aloes, and cinnamon. Come, let us take our fill of love until morning. Let us delight ourselves with love. For my husband is not at home, for he has gone on a long journey. He has taken a bag of money with him and will come home on the appointed day. With her enticing speech, she caused him to yield. With her flattering lips, she seduced him. Immediately he went in after her, as an ox goes to the slaughter, or as a fool to the correction of the stocks, till an arrow struck his liver. As a bird hastens to the snare, he did not know it would cost his life. So very explicit. But there's so much imagery there of like, she knows what she's doing. She's got a crafty heart. She's luring him in with her attire, her flattering lips. And because he's foolish, he's falling for it. There's this clear warning, beware of her. Why beware of her? Because you should be more aware of being simple, being foolish, without wisdom. The whole point here is the beginning of wisdom is the fear of the Lord, right? So get understanding. In all you're getting, get understanding, right? Get wisdom, avoid the crafty harlot. There's a clear accountability and understanding scripturally that a woman can do that. And so it's weird how you can't say that though. Like if you say that, a lot of women get really offended that you would suggest that any responsibility is on their part. Like if I walked around, I can't even think about this. If Marshall walked around, just kidding, butt naked in town, there would be a clear reaction.
Be arrested immediately.
Arrested from like women.
You might
would
get shot actually.
Yeah, I
here.
agree.
Dispatcher's getting a call saying, we have a golem-like creature rolling around downtown.
Yeah, he has no butt. So, sorry. Sorry, I didn't mean to tell everybody. Yeah, I feel like clearly people would understand in that moment, because that's a clear example that your attire has an impact on the population, and people respond to that. And it's not like they should just shield their eyes. Like they should actually remove what you're wearing from the population. They should make you modest.
I'm not going to go around town in
Again,
my birthday suit.
I know,
saying,
again, right?
In my birthday suit saying,
time-
hey, just control where you're looking, kid. Or, like that's
horrible.
I
Dude.
know.
I can't believe you even brought us there in imagination.
You did that.
No, you did that.
No.
We didn't bring
Don't
kids
gaslight
into
me.
it. That was
Yeah,
the
you
problem.
brought kids into this, man.
Look, we have two
That's
Presbyterians
messed
here.
up.
They brought kids into this.
The kids were already present, dude. Okay, we just affirm that. All right. We just give them the sign of the covenant. Anyway, we're back to what we're saying. Any thoughts?
So, I mean, biblical modesty is actually kind of a difficult one, right? Because I can't point to a verse that says you should not wear skin-tight clothing, right? It's hard when we're trying to apply a book of principles like the Bible to our culture today. Because if you look at the spots in the New Testament where it talks about modesty in women, it's usually talking about those who are adorned in lavish clothing, right? Who jewels all over, who are showing how wealthy they are. I think if we're going to make a case for biblical modesty, we can point to the idea of bearing each other's burdens, right? So men, we are particularly burdened towards lustful intent, right? We have we have been burdened with such a proclivity towards that sin, and women can help us in bearing that burden by dressing more modestly to help us avoid such things. Now, obviously, sometimes women can be dressed as modestly as possible, and it's still, there's nothing she really can do outside of that, right? But another principle we could look at would be, obviously not wanting to be a stumbling block to your brother, right? Romans 14, even 1 Corinthians 8. The idea of causing your brother to stumble, especially when it's linked to your liberty as a Christian, causing your own brother to stumble is to Paul.
What do you mean
really
by
serious.
that? Like allowing your wife or approving of your wife being immodest to cause your brother to stumble, like at church and stuff?
Well, I'm thinking more towards the woman herself, right? The idea of why should you be modest?
Oh, I see. Yeah, her brother.
Yeah, exactly.
Got
her
you.
brother.
Yeah.
So, don't cause your brother to stumble.
See, that's not even a paradigm I think we think about. That like this is her. Like, yes, we're brothers and sisters in the faith, but like you need to care for your brother, who's not your husband, not your actual blood brother, not your neighbor necessarily, but it's your brother in Christ or your fellow man. You need to love them. And it's the same way, like Like, dude, if I'm, you know, if I look like 50 Cent, I'm not going to walk around shirtless. You know what I'm saying? Because you're going to make girls stumble. And some guys. If you're Marshall, some guys.
Oh my God.
I mean,
Sorry,
I do think we need to back up a little bit, because before that, I mean, let's go back to the garden. Like, they were naked and they were ashamed. So there is shame
After the-
associated
after
with
sin.
Yeah, after the sin. There's shame associated with nakedness. Or you could go to Noah, who got drunk and was naked, and you know, his
Ham.
covered him
Curse
up.
of Ham.
So I do think I think that's actually the first category of why it's important to be modest, is because it is
Shameful.
a shameful thing to show your nakedness.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, and when we say modesty too, I mean, sometimes we categorize this type of
Like
modesty
sexual only?
differently. Yeah, so I mean, modesty. I mean, we all understand that, like, if we were particularly gifted towards something, we have great ability in some area, and we choose not to flaunt it, right? We choose
Right.
not to show off, to boast ourselves
Yeah.
up, right? That would be modest, right? You're gifted, you're talented, you have ability, and you don't flaunt it to other people, right? And so in the case with dress, we can act modest and immodest, right? Again, by flaunting and even with our words, you know, being out there and being very loud and boisterous, and everyone needs to hear what I have to say, right?
Yeah.
And,
It's pride.
yeah, exactly.
I think it's do not watch this movie. I'm not recommending this movie, but American Gangster with Denzel Washington.
Mm-hmm.
He says
The guy just watched it 3 times last night, but
no,
don't watch it,
he
guys.
he says the loudest man in the room is the weakest man in the room.
Well, it's like yeah.
And I think I actually think it's interesting because what?
Say that again.
Yeah, he's talking really quiet.
Do you know the Bruce Willis effect?
No.
Do you guys know about this? So, well, you know, he's not obviously acting anymore because mental health stuff, but well, actually just I guess just health stuff. It's not like really mental health. It's, you know, anyway, Bruce Willis effect. He talks quieter than everybody, and it forces everybody to like lean in and listen to him. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, I thought
50
I
Cent
think it's
also adopted
interesting.
that.
I'm actually really glad you brought that up because modesty is not just merely what one wears, but you brought up Proverbs 7. It says in verse 11 of 7 says she is loud and wayward.
Mine
Right?
says, being boisterous.
But you have this loud person, and then you also have honestly the whore. You have this whore who's loud, and that's the picture that's presented. And then you look at is it the 1 Timothy or 1 Corinthians where Paul says, "I do not permit a woman to speak in church." And obviously I do believe that is specifically in reference to
Church service.
Church service.
Yeah.
But even in that, you see
Like after the service, you don't go up to women and go like, shh.
right.
You're not allowed to talk
Right.
yet. You got to step outside.
Right. No. But I think you see there is a type of modesty associated with a woman who has a controlled demeanor, if you will, a modest demeanor.
Temperance.
Yeah.
Full circle.
I think you can tell, like kind of like the man in American Gangster, you know, the loudest man is the weakest one, right? Drawing attention because of deep down insecurity or whatnot, right?
Yeah.
But I think there's something modest and something eloquent and beautiful about a woman who is able to remain not silent and muzzled, but someone who is controlled.
Yeah. Self-controlled.
Self-controlled, thank you.
Good
Marshall,
clarification.
you like to control
Canceled.
people. Well,
We've been canceled before
you
this.
know,
too.
I would apply this to men, particularly with like tattoos. I think that like I have tattoos, but I think something that like there's a setting to where it's okay to like take your shirt off, like if you're with your family swimming, whatever, right? But if you're like, let's say, covered in tattoos, you know, like women like this, you know that if you're flaunting them, if you're wearing apparel that's trying to get specific attention from women, it's the same category. It falls under the same principle of loud, rebellious, boisterous, of seeking an attention that isn't a godly kind of attention. And there's a level, like, if you're not seeking that kind of attention, I don't think you have to be legalistic about it. But there's a wisdom in if I'm trying to seek this attention, especially like married guys, you know. Someone I really respect with this is actually Andrew Huberman. You guys know who that is?
Yep.
No.
He's fantastic, Christian, a neuroscientist. I mean, covered in tattoos. But no one knew about it until one video surfaced where he did a workout and he had to carry a big boulder up a mountain. And so he took his shirt off to get grip because he was so sweaty he couldn't hold the boulder. And everyone was like, whoa, he's like covered in tattoos. But he says he always wears a long sleeve shirt because he doesn't like the effect it has on people. It makes people stumble. It makes people weird. It changes his interactions. It seeks a kind of attention. It has an effect on people that he's found a lot more profitability if he's covering them up. Yeah, so that's why Marshall covers up his back tattoo of the American flag.
I feel like this is a natural thing into head coverings, but maybe we shouldn't go there.
Oh.
No.
Different episode.
Different, yeah. Next episode.
Okay, so what do we got? What do we got left?
I mean, we kind of went. It's a pretty long one.
Hour 20?
It's a long episode, dude.
Is it? Should we end soon?
I'm having fun.
Okay,
I'm having,
so
okay, as
let's
long
get
as
2
you
more
guys
hours.
are having fun.
Anyway,
I think we should talk about the role of, can a woman be a pastor?
Pastress.
Pastress, priestess,
No.
pastor, pastress,
Absolutely
elder,
not. Case closed.
deacon.
Hard stop.
Why and why not?
Case closed.
Bible says so. The end.
All right, on to the next.
Yeah, no, that's good.
I do think
Do you want to
this is
unpack it a little bit? What if there's no men? What if it's only females?
Yeah.
Do you have a church?
There we go. I love it. Explain
Well-
that.
Well, what makes a church?
Well, if you ask Carl Lentz right now, he has no idea. That's true. A video just surfaced.
Really?
Yeah, he's an influencer again. Where he just talks about, I'm not a professional, but I've, had so much experience. I'm basically a professional. And, someone asked me to define the church. Like, what do you mean? Like, I've had some experience and I still can't define it.
The bride of Christ.
Well, I mean, I just feel like there's marks of a church. There's a standard of a church.
Right.
There's church discipline. There's
Yeah.
pastoral
Yep.
leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, why can't we have a church only made of women?
Well, I think the answer is that it would be like having a woman father. I mean, it's
You can't have that?
It's androgyny.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize we weren't there yet. But I mean, it's a conflict in just nature. I mean,
Right.
a pastor, a shepherd, an elder, by nature, is a man, right? You can't. Whatever you have is not a pastor. If you have a lady up there reading scripture and even preaching, that's not a pastor up there. It's not a lady pastor.
It is to father, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, it is by ontologically, it is a man. I mean,
To
it must be a
pastor
man.
is to father.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, like you said, authority is a major part of what a church is, and spiritual authority from an elder, an overseer. And as we see the qualifications and clearly what is outlined for the requirements of what an elder is, it is abundantly clear that an elder, overseer, pastor, shepherd is a man. And there are qualifications laid out even further than that. Obviously, not all men can be elders and overseers, but they start from that basic premise of it must be a man.
Yeah, you hear the argument often that, well, there are so many women that are actually good at preaching or teaching, and that can be true. There are plenty of women that are probably better preachers or teachers than many other men. But just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And the same goes for the home. Like, there are many situations where the wife actually is more biblically astute than the husband. Okay,
Deborah.
He still needs to be the spiritual leader and grow in his knowledge of the word so that he can help lead his wife.
And we're not reacting to scenarios. We're looking at the big picture of, like, God joined these people as one flesh and one covenant together as in a marriage with this man as the head. It's not about like on the surface, like his shortfallings of like, yeah, he needs to know scripture to be able to edify her. Mm-hmm. Clearly he needs men to help him and to sharpen him and to hold him accountable and say, what are you doing, dude? Mm-hmm. Why aren't you at Bible study every Wednesday? Why aren't you reading? Let's FaceTime. Let's read right now.
Yeah, why aren't you guys at Bible study?
No excuses.
What are you talking about? Talking about Thursday morning?
Actually,
I'm leading my family.
Oh, that's good.
Okay.
Good excuse. Yeah. We'll accept that.
That's fine.
I did ask my wife last night, actually, because when I first started dating her, she had a lot of feminist leanings. Like she had short hair. She was going to be a doctor. She was looking at...
She could bench 320.
Not yet. She does do CrossFit, though.
It's not a cult. It's not
a cult. Okay.
CrossFit is not a cult. I feel like we have to clarify.
I bear testimony.
Sure, bro. For sure a cult.
It's cultish. No, when I first met her, she had a lot of feminist leanings, wanted a career, didn't want to have kids. All of these should have been red flags for me, but I was dumb, and but by God's grace, by God's grace, He used my dumbness, and I have a wonderful wife, and she has changed so much. But we had some rocky points early in our marriage because I was living my life in a way that I wanted to make her happy, like do anything that would happy wife, happy life, and so I was incredibly insecure. And just walking on eggshells all the time and was not leading. And so we had a pretty rocky marriage in our first few years. And when we had Zoe, I kind of felt the weight of, I need to spiritually lead my kids. And I'm not even doing that with my wife. And so I started taking those steps. And ultimately we left our church in California and moved here. And I just started doubling down on, leading the family in Bible reading, family worship, kind of removing ourselves from the echo chamber of feminism that was kind of more prominent where we lived. I think that's a big aspect is if your wife's, following influencers or YouTubers that are like feeding feminist ideas, that's not going to help at all. Yeah. So surround yourself with voices that are actually encouraging biblical, solid teaching. But I asked her like, hey, what helped you start to like shed those things and embrace your femininity? Because she would describe herself, I'm a strong, independent woman. I don't need no man. I'm going to kick you in the face. She was like kind of that personality. Mm-hmm. And she honestly just last night said, when you started taking your role as the head of the house, as the leader of our family, I felt the freedom to actually embrace my femininity. Whoa. And so she went from this short-haired, 20-year-old, career-driven, didn't want to have kids, to a homeschool mom that wears a head covering in church in 10 years. Yeah. And I didn't force any change. I never told her, submit, you need to like do this. I didn't. All of that was a byproduct. Her pursuing the word because she saw me pursuing the word in the word, submitting to the word, and she was following suit in her own way. And
how much more your kids seeing that, what that's going to do for them, seeing the biblical ideal of marriage on display, dad in the word, mom submitted to dad leading mom and kids.
Maybe crazy. So, by God's grace.
Dude, that's so cool. I think same with, I had a similar experience. I think when I was engaged and newly married to my wife. She was an EMT. She was, very independent. She also didn't want to get married at all. She wanted to do missions and just kind of do her own thing. And when we got married, our plan was to have kids like 5 years down the road, have just us time. And I think it was when we had our first kid, she saw what the world was feeding her as far as like what women are to do. And we have a large feminist culture where women love murdering their children. Mm-hmm. And so the opposite swing of that is to raise up life. And I think that really changed her to want to be a godly woman. And I think also very similarly, I mean, dude, I lived by that motto the first couple 3-4 years of my marriage, where I was like, happy wife, happy life, just constantly trying to please her, do whatever it is that'll make her happy. But when I started, you know, I was a spiritual wimp when it comes down to it. And I, you know, was lazy, didn't have our family involved in church at all. Went to church at the very least, right? But then it wasn't till and I'm not saying it's because of Calvinism, but it wasn't until I came to like an understanding of a reformed understanding of the word, where I started really digging in my faith and growing spiritually as a man and growing as a husband and as a father and taking that more seriously, where there was actually friction in our marriage for a while because, you know, she struggled with, you know, the doctrinal changes, going from dispensational to postmillennial, Arminian to Calvinist. You know, she didn't marry a Calvinist. You know, she didn't marry a post-mill Reformed guy, and so that was hard for her. But I think after lots and lots of arguments and hard seasons, I think thankfully, you know, by God's grace, like the fruit of me stepping into that role as the head, and actually, yeah, it's not happy wife, happy life. It's, you know, glorify Christ and serve him and allow him to be my head, submit to him. And honestly, I've seen God just radically change her in a very similar way. She's loves the dress, and it's not about dresses, right?
She embraced femininity.
She did. Yeah. And she loves it. Like she said very similar things that Aubriana has, where it's, you know, she feels free to be a woman, you know?
Shania Twain.
Yeah. It's really cool to see.
My wife uses that language, freedom.
Shania Twain?
Yeah, exactly. My wife is Shania Twain. Whoa. She changed her identity to Aubriana.
Yeah. Let me play this clip because I feel like we're hitting on some stuff here. And specifically, I got 2 things to bring up on this, but it's real short. But
Dad, when mom's mad at you, how do you make her not mad?
That's a great question. How do you, hon?
First, I apologize. Then I get your mother whatever she wants.
Even when she's wrong?
She's never wrong, son.
That's right.
Sorry, it was really quiet audio.
What is that from?
That's from Stranger Things.
I was going to say, I've seen that before.
So, but it's this idea that modern entertainment industry, like television, movies, Hollywood has always and still does portrays the dad like a dumb, ineffective, like you're just kind of occupying space. You're kind of doing damage to the home. It's the woman who has the value, has the purpose. She kind of pushes and steers the whole ship. I mean, have you guys watched Stranger Things?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, even like Nancy's dad, though, I mean, he's a perfect example. Like she's in the tub reading her book about a dude she's attracted to, you know, and that dude who looks like him is at the door, but she's like, answer the door. And he's asleep on the couch, is ringing, and she has to get up out of the bath to go answer the door. There's a lot of scenarios like that. I mean, look at Disney stuff. Like there's always, look at Incredibles, dude. We were watching Incredibles at home, and I had to we were watching it, and I was like, man, I didn't realize, like I've seen this so many times. Yeah. I just look at the action and stuff, and then I was watching it, and I was like, Jay, that's a naughty wife, huh? He's like, yeah, that's a naughty wife. I'm like, yeah, she's not good to her husband or her kids. Like I had to make sure he knows, like she challenges everything he says verbally, loudly. I mean, her way is right. Her way is the highway. He's just some idiot who works and provides, and that's it.
But also in the movie and in the show, you refer to, they are the idiots.
What I'm saying is they're making them that way.
Right.
There is this conditioning that entertainment has done to change the view of the father in the home.
Right. And
all of the entertainment we absorb just affirms that.
Right. I think when you have I'm trying to think of a show. What is a show? Or
What is
even
a show?
movie?
What a show is
No. What's a show or a movie that portrays a father as a good sacrificial leader?
Shrek 3, of course.
Gladiator.
Shrek 3? Did you say Shrek 3? He just brought Shrek into this.
You
dude.
did. I didn't. We didn't do
Wow.
it.
The answer is Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah, it's old
Yeah,
television.
that's
It's
the
old
answer.
television. But it's the thing. You have to go way, way back
Yeah.
to see that. I mean, there's remnants of it. You know, I'm sure Hello Ninja, you know, produced by N.D. Wilson. I'm sure that's a Netflix show. I bet that the parents aren't derelict.
Sure.
The father isn't, you know, but you just have to go back, you know, what is that? 60s?
I think that's 70s, 80s.
Okay, 70s, 80s to find that. I just feel like, but also the question I have with it is, do you think men are afraid of their wives?
Yes.
Yes.
Wow, you guys hopped on that. Elaborate.
Well, because I was
Yeah.
terrified.
Was? Are you still?
I'm not afraid anymore. I'm like Kevin from Home Alone.
I'm not.
Wow.
This is a safe
No,
place.
I-
She's not
I'm
here.
not gonna lie. I am. I feel that temptation at times.
Yeah,
where
yeah.
I'm afraid of what I'm gonna say or do is gonna impact.
Yes.
And how this is like, I'm gonna destroy her world with going to do this or whatever it is.
Yeah. I find that it's really easy for men to bottle stuff in because they don't want to upset the ecosystem at the house.
Dude,
you know?
ecosystem is
You know
such
what I
a good
mean?
way to
Like,
describe it.
you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like there's something happening at the house and I don't want
Because what happens if you bring it up?
it could blow up into something crazy.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Yeah. It could.
I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
It does.
It jumped up a notch.
It did, didn't it?
That's what'll happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like, we're afraid of that because we feel we feel like I did this. I caused this. So it's a risk every time you have to make a choice. It's a risk of backfire.
But bringing in that Stranger Things clip, if you are not willing to correct your wife at times, you're not loving her. Like there are times where you have to point out something that's wrong out of love, and you do it with tenderness and care and humility. I think that's the other part is it could be very easy to come off like, hey, you did that, you shouldn't have done that. Like how dare you? And you're condemning instead of coming at it with grace. And I also
Law and gospel.
Yeah. And then I have to be open to my wife, and I've asked her this, like, hey, are there any times where I'm controlling or overbearing or rude or mean, and give her the freedom to actually share when I'm being a jerk?
Yeah, dude, I think my biggest fear, more than my wife, is being a monster in the eyes of my wife. Like, I'm actually afraid to know what she thinks of me. It's like every guy, you know, you deal with like, you have little Jekyll Hyde going on, right? You have like the things my wife has, and the descriptors my wife has used when she's upset with me versus the descriptors she's used when she's not upset with me. Sometimes those are very different, you know, and every wife is different, you know, not all are the same, but and some are way more gracious. Some are a lot more aggressive and confrontational, but I mean, I don't know how you guys deal with that. Like that's something I struggle with. It's like, I want my wife to be attracted to me. I want her to see me as a good man, honestly, not say that because she's in a good mood and everything's fluffy and happy and dandy. But like deep down, like when it's hard, is that what she thinks, you know?
Well, then you have to create an environment that when you are a jerk, she has the freedom to say, hey, I felt like you were really rude to me or disrespectful to me, or the way you said that came off as really mean. And then you have the opportunity to ask for forgiveness and repent, and vice versa. And you kind of like early in our marriage, like my wife did not understand really how to apologize or confess. That's very common among.
So common.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this because like a bunch of women I know, I've read so many comments and testimonies of that exact thing. They go, yeah, like my wife will never do that. She has to take accountability. She'll never apologize. Like a lot of men like never hear I'm sorry from their wives. Yeah. And the only stigma is that men need to apologize for their sin. But we can't even call it sin to our wives oftentimes. Like it's offensive to say that's wrong what you did. That's actually sin against God. They're like, that's so aggressive. That's so intense. That's exactly what we're doing. When we apologize, we're saying, I'm in sin, and now I'm trying to ask forgiveness, your whole sermon, to come to her and to apologize and seek reconciliation. There has to, dude, you can't have reconciliation without, it's like baking a cake, dude. You have to have flour and butter and all the things. You have to have an admission of guilt and forgiveness and mercy applied to that admission of guilt. You have to have someone receive your repentance. Repentance is required, though.
They're not very egalitarian when it comes to confession.
Dang. Wait. Oh, I'm too late. I can't do it now. I got to be on this pad page for this conversation.
That's funny.
Okay. Yeah, it's exactly right. They're egalitarian until they're there, for sure. So I don't know. Any thoughts, Jeremiah?
Oh,
so
man.
many, right?
Yeah. It's hard. I really like Ben's advice there that, if you want to know that your wife does feel comfortable, that she does trust you, she does respect you, and think you're a good man. I mean, you need to foster an environment at home where she feels free, not to just tell you the good things and the nice things, but to tell you the truth when sometimes you are a jerk. I think also, when it comes to women's sins, even in the church, we have a tendency to not address them, right? I mean, you can even see the distinction between Mother's Day sermons and Father's Day sermons, right?
We've done a whole episode on that.
Yeah.
Fathers do better. Mothers, you're amazing. Still, fathers do better.
Yeah. And I've heard pastors before, because I mean, it's really easy to be really harsh with men. I mean, we were doing that during this podcast, right? Like,
I felt personally attacked by you.
Yeah. Okay. Good. But I've heard pastors say, "Well, we can't address women the same way from the pulpit as we do a man because
they're not men.
Because they're not men. Because they're not.
Amen.
Because they're the weaker vessel, as Peter says, right? Be gentle and loving with your wives, for she is the be understanding with her, for she is the weaker vessel." And so they say, well, we apply that to the pulpit too. And I think there's some wisdom there. I mean, if you just came in and just went, guns blazing at women, when men hear a sermon that's guns blazing, usually they're convicted and they're like, yeah, I felt that. I'll change. If I imagine there may be some more emotion if it was the other way and it was guns blazing towards women's sin. And so there definitely needs to be some discernment there. But I think there has been a lot of neglect of addressing women's sin.
Particular women's sin.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of avoidance there. People are
We did
afraid.
3-part series on that, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
This is the third part.
Untouchable sins.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think, not all about women, but there was obesity. Like there's a lot of things that just sins that aren't talked about.
Yeah.
And addressing women is a neglected one. Do you think, because you said discernment, do you think that how much does that play in where, men are more aggressive as a whole, but actually a lot of times I think a lot of wives are more confrontational, but men have more inherent aggression, right? Do you think that guys, because I think some guys just aren't self-discerning to know, they don't know how to just talk to their wives without coming off tyrannical.
Yeah, that is a tough one too, to learn how to talk to girls. That's a big.
Your dad never taught you?
That's a tough thing to get through. I mean, we're used to talking to boys, and they're usually pretty, tough, and we talk a certain way to each other. But we're talking to our wives. We do need to change our tone a little bit. That's a big one that'll happen, right? Feel like your tone is condescending, or you're yelling at me, or things like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's hard for us as husbands. Like you were talking about, we don't get often "I'm sorry," which it's not true in my marriage. My wife says it a lot, so sorry for you guys. But
was that from her or from you?
She just texted me, actually. But I mean, if we're not addressing women's sins, if we're not telling them that these are sins, right? When they're coming up in relationship, then they're completely not used to the idea of repenting for these things that they think are totally normal to, not addressed at all?
Well, let's get practical though. Like, I don't want to cut you off. I want you to finish that, but like, how do you, because dude, guys are so afraid. Like, we're not going to tell our wives they're in sin. I'm too comfortable for that. Like, how do you foster an environment where you could tell your wife when there's sin present on her side that will actually produce life and not tear down what you're building?
Don't do it in front of the boys or the kids.
Oh yeah, definitely don't do that.
It's rule number 1.
I like to get them out. Like, hey kids, sit down, get some popcorn.
Don't do it during date night or on an anniversary. Like, there's a lot of wisdom you have to apply.
Talk to you.
So one thing that I did, this was a couple years ago, there were areas in our marriage and our family where I knew we had to grow. And one was like marriage communication, certain areas of that. And I wanted my wife had listened to this podcast, read this book. And then I decided, you know what? We're going to read through this book together. Every Sunday night, we're going to sit down and read a chapter of this book and talk about it. And we're going to make this a new habit. We're always going to be in a marriage book and a parenting book.
Purpose-driven life.
Yeah, purpose-driven life. So good.
So powerful.
No, I think it was Cherish by Gary Thomas, marriage book.
No, and, nobody knows the guys you know.
Yeah. No, this is focused on the Family Guy.
Okay.
Anywho, that was really, really good for us because what ended up happening was I didn't have to bring up certain topics. The book that we were going through would foster conversations that naturally, I could be like, hey, this book convicted me. I failed in this area. And that would encourage her to like, I could be better here. And it was almost like having a third party kind of moderating, that discussion. So that was really helpful. And we continue to do that.
We did the same thing with, I read Federal
Love
Husband. We read 2 separate books, but mine was Federal Husband by Douglas Wilson, and then she read like The Fruit of Her Hands by Nancy Wilson, which is, Douglas Wilson's wife. And the two of them, those authors are...
complemented each other?
Yeah. Well, they her writings, Nancy's writings reflect, the book that her husband wrote, and so it was cool reading our individual books together where it would bring up things that even though it's not like they go together, but because they're married, they go together. And there was no like inconsistency in what was being taught. And I found that also really helpful because it organically brings up certain elements of marriage that, may be a little more uncomfortable, brought up, abruptly, once you get the kids down, hey, so let's talk about this, I also think there should be a little, I think the way you learn how to talk to your wife about this stuff is by just doing it. And sometimes you're going to
trial and error.
You're going to make mistakes, but I think that is how your marriage gets sharpened and how it gets sanctified is, you go through it. It's not going to always be easy.
Well, and so many guys have neglected this area. So the weight of the change that's needed is such a burden when they go to try and it fails, because it will fail right up front.
Yeah.
And every correction is most of the time an overcorrection. Like, there's going to be stuff you have to like work out and go like, oh, like I came in way too heavy with this, or I had the right idea, but the wrong approach, whatever it is. I guess if anyone wants to speak to like, how do you encourage men not to let the failures, because we're driven by failure often, how to not let the failure defeat us.
So bring your wife into the failure. If you brought up something and it turns into a fight, later, I've done this with Aubriana many times. I've asked her, hey, how could I have done that differently? Like, I wanted to get to point B, but I came at it in the wrong way. Yeah. And her responses usually are very helpful. I'm like, okay, I can do that better next time. And you just like through what you're talking about, Marshall, trial and error, you get better and better, and you know how to speak to them in a way where you, like for my wife, early in our marriage, every time I would bring up something, she felt like I was attacking her, and she had some baggage that she brought in from her childhood.
You guys put it in an attic?
Yeah, exactly. No, I carried it for her.
Nice.
Threw it out the window. But ask them like, hey, how can I bring this up in a way that you will receive some input, some correction, some advice, and then you also let them know it's like it's a two-way street. Like always let them know, hey, if like you said, if I'm being a jerk, like let me know. I want to repent of that. If I am sinning, if you see me sinning, let me know so I can confess that.
You have to hate your own sin first, before you can go and, pull the plank out of your wife's eye.
No, the plank's in your eye, the speck's in her.
Not in my
It's a
house.
log.
I was kidding. No, but you have to hate your sin more. And that has to be apparent to your wife too. Like, she has to see that you're crushing the head of,
the serpent
in your household, right? In your life,
the priest of your home,
right?
Jeremiah loves that kind of language.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah,
he does.
I'm all for that.
So does Bodhi Bakum.
Yeah.
Right.
For apologizing, one thing you brought up is I know it's really hard for a lot of women to apologize, and including my wife, because she did not grow up around that. Whereas I had parents that modeled apologizing to each other in front of the kids if they sinned in front of the kids. My dad would ask for my mom's forgiveness if he snapped or anything.
I apologize to my son too.
Yeah. And I told Aubriana, I was like, you need to grow in this because you are helping model this to our children, and we're modeling it to each other and
It's bigger than just you two.
Exactly. And so she's grown a lot, and she's going to continue to grow, but she's a lot further than she was when we first got married.
She's physically growing, is what you're saying. Sorry, so stupid. Any? I feel okay. So we're an hour 50 in. We're almost 2 hours. Do we go the next 10 or do we wrap it up?
I don't know. We might not have any more listeners at this point.
Yeah.
No, we
No one's
totally
listening.
do. This is good.
Does
stuff.
anyone listen to this?
We got like 2 listeners. Listen. Anyway,
That's awesome.
Marshall's mom and Marshall's mom again. Anyway, no, I feel like this is really good stuff. And what about husbands who are not fathers yet? Because you just kind of painted this picture of like, listen, this is bigger than just us. Like the children, we need to model this for them, and not just the idea of creating an environment for when that happens. What's the immediate value of a husband and wife, and how do they cultivate that?
The immediate value?
Yeah, because it's not just about the kids, right? It's also about the covenant.
Oh yeah, reconciliation.
We're covenantal.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Yeah, we are.
I mean, it's about reconciliation.
Yeah. I mean,
Because the children are in that covenant with us,
okay,
right?
You lost me. You lost me. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I mean, we're called to live according to, as reflections of Christ. So, I mean, we should be forgiving and repenting consistently, and that's ultimately what can lead to a lot of problems in relationships, particularly in marriage. Because I mean, the thing is that, sometimes spouses might think, well, why do you sin against me so much? I feel like you don't treat other people this way, or I feel like you don't sin against other people as much as you do me. But I mean, obviously, our spouses are the people that we spend the most amount of time.
You're like, listen,
with.
I'm going to sin like 100 times a day, and if I'm with you 90% of the time, that's 90 of them.
That's right there. Yeah. Just statistically.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that can be frustrating and discouraging. And in our marriages, we are called to be forgiving and understanding with
Sounds like a
spouse.
sermon I know of.
Yeah, there was one of those, but it was totally off subject there. But I mean, that's going to be the key is being understanding with our wives, talking to husbands and wives being understanding with your husbands. I mean, we are all sinners, and the thing is, we're never going to stop sinning. We're not Wesleyan, perfectionists over here.
Yeah.
We all understand that we're going to continue to sin. And the expectation can't be that, you can't look down the road 10 years and be like, I can't believe you're still sinning against me in this same way. It's like, what would your expectation be that I'm just going to stop sinning that way? Right. I mean, that we just get over it in a certain sense. I mean, we can't have such unrealistic expectations of our spouses. And so our call in being unified, being one flesh together, we must be understanding with each other, and it has to go both ways. You know, you can't just look at yourself as the victim of this relationship, and just continually blame the other person.
So you have to do if you're a victim.
Yeah.
You have to shift blame.
Yep,
Otherwise, you're not a victim.
Never my fault, right?
Yeah, and what I'm hearing too is that, you know, love is patient, love is kind, you know, it does not boast in iniquity or rejoice in iniquity. But the patient part, I feel, you know, I saw this influencer the other day, is real. I don't know if it got sent to me or I saw that, you know, what I started doing on Instagram is there's the real page and then there's the friends reel where it's like the ones your friends like. And now I can see what my friends are watching. It's actually way more entertaining. But there was this one, and it was this Christian influencer, really successful podcast and social media and all that. Anyway, he was talking about marriage, and his advice sounded similar to what you said earlier, Marshall, about like become a man who's worthy. But he kind of made this. I mean, he straight up like kind of promised like you'll have a new marriage tomorrow. You just become a guy who's worthy. And it's like, first of all, you don't know the situation there. Like, what if that's just a really rebellious wife and she will never submit? You can't just say, you can't promise it'll work out. But it's this kind of like instant microwave people culture. And what you're explaining here, Jeremiah, sounds like is having the understanding and the wisdom and the patience that this may take 10 years, but it's still worth it to see that as the goal and slowly plot away, nice hat, at making it, it's blog and Mablog, not Plodcast. Dang it.
Nice try.
Is work towards a legacy, something bigger that has vision and has, you know, a holistic picture of God's sovereignty and God's inner workings with man and the biblical narrative. All of that encompassed in God's vision for marriage, and work towards that with the hope of eventually it's where I want to be, and trusting God in the process.
Yeah, I mean, basically the message is this, right? That men, it's time to step up and take responsibility for what you've been given. The Lord has given you your wife, given you your family to watch over here on earth, and it's your time now to step up into that role. Take that responsibility seriously, really feel the weight of that responsibility and dig into it to the glory of God.
Yeah.
And the message to wives is, wives, embrace the femininity here. Embrace your femininity and be patient with your husbands as they take on this role of the head of the household faithfully, right? There will be many, many missteps. There will be harshness. He will fail. He'll let you down. He won't love you the way that he's supposed to. He'll sin against you. But your call, wives, is to submit to him to the glory of God. That you glorify God by your submission to your husbands, your patience with him, your love for him, and your respect for him will ultimately bring you greater communion together in your relationship and greater communion with Christ and his glory.
Dude,
I think you just wrapped up everything.
Honestly, I feel like we should just hit record. He says that, we stop.
Yeah.
That was great. Anything to add?
No.
I
think there's so many other rabbit trails we could go down.
Yeah. We didn't even get to hey, let's talk about feminism. And he's like, men do better. I'm like, Jeremiah is a feminist. That's his feminism.
Yeah.
You know?
There it is.
Well, what's funny too is like the whole feminist movement that we see today is women want to just be men. They don't want to be feminists. Yeah. They don't want to be effeminate.
Well, because they don't see the value of femininity.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So they need to be something different.
Yeah. They think men have more value. We essentially, you know what I mean?
Can you imagine the feminist church trying to be the groom? That's an interesting thought. Christ is the groom and we're the bride, and the church is feminist. Essentially, they are trying to be the savior.
Right.
That's not what we're called to be.
Yeah, flipping the roles there.
Sounds like Mormonism.
I know you love Mormonism, dude. It really is your favorite. So,
Sweet.
Marshall, any last words? I haven't asked you that in so long. I love asking you that because you get that look on your face.
I want Jeremiah and Ben back on.
Yeah. By popular demand already.
Yep.
We'll see if this tops Pastor Matt's episodes, man. This is good. This is good stuff.
Thanks for having us.
And next, Jeremiah will tell us how he became Paedo Baptist. Anyway, so just kidding, people. Anyway, thanks for joining us. Be blessed.
The average apologist pulling up a chair, talking reform theology with a Shrek-like flair. They'll press you with the questions, they'll wrestle and contend.